Hello everyone, my name is Cody. I am a CFI at UND Aerospace Foundation here at Mesa, Arizona. So if you are like me and train here down in this area, you know that it can get pretty hectic with all the different types of aircraft that are out there. There's UND ourselves, we have ATP, Oxfords, and various all different other types of flight schools that fly out here in the southern, northern, western, all around the Phoenix area to do our flight training, right? So the area I'm going to be focusing on primarily are these three here that you see on screen right now, and this is ForeFlight. ForeFlight is an amazing tool that you can use throughout your training. So I just wanted to break this down and put it into detail so this could be easier for you to understand when making radio calls out there in the practice areas. So, quick introduction of what the different colors mean on these practice areas, right? So they're categorized in just different areas, right? So if we zoom out even more, we got a couple of colors up here to the north, right? So if you're up there doing training, let's say Deer Valley, which is DVT right here, right? You would be focusing on more of these green areas and these orange ones, right? And you would be focusing on using the northwest frequencies and the northeast frequencies if you were up here, up on the north side of the Phoenix City. But where I am focusing on today is down here by Mesa Gateway Airport, right? Most of the flight schools here, UND, where I'm from, and ATP, this is where we train out of, is Mesa Gateway Airport, identifier Kilo India Whiskey Alpha, right? So, quick introduction about these three, I should say. Starting with the blue, right? So, there's a lot. I think there's more points in this one out of any of the other southeast or the other practice area zones. So this one is called the southeast practice area. So any of these points that are blue, you can see obviously are in the southeast practice area, and you would find the frequency in gray right here. Southeast practice area frequency is 122.85. So, example, when you depart straight out and use Johnson Ranch, departure out of Mesa Gateway, you would do runway heading 126 out of here, and then right turn 140 to eventually hit Johnson Ranch departure. And therefore, after that, you would be in the southeast practice area. Say you're going in the opposite direction, you do the Santan departure, right? We go, sorry about that. We go out and use 3 zeros. We go up, and then we make a left turn out towards, I'm trying to find it here. Usually, there it is, Santan Peak. I just had to zoom in a little more because it was disappeared. So, for Santan departure, we go right out to Santan Peak, which is right around here is where we're aiming towards when we do Santan departure, right? So either way, you're going to be in the southeast practice area when departing out of Gateway, right? The most common one you're going to get is the Johnson Ranch departure because they use 1-2s, in my opinion, more than they do the Santan departures. So let me just clear this out real quick. Cool, awesome. So let's say we're just doing the Johnson Ranch departure and heading 140 to Johnson Ranch, right? Once you are out of the Delta airspace, which is coded in dotted blue lines, which is this part right here, you can switch to the frequency of 122.85, right? Assuming you didn't get altitude deletion by tower and we're only climbing up to 3,000 feet while we are in the Delta. But once you're out of the Delta, you can climb up to whatever altitude you need to for your maneuvers, right? So let's say we go up to 4,500 heading towards Johnson Ranch, right? You're in your climb up to 4,500 and you're just now passing over Johnson Ranch, right? So in another screen, I will I will text out to see what that transmission will look like. Okay, so let's take an example that our call sign for our plane today is just Sioux 123, right? So our tail number of our plane is November 123, November Delta, right? So therefore, UND's typical call sign will be Sioux, whatever your numbers are, Sioux 123. So for example reasons, our call sign for today is just Sioux 123. Like on the other screen, I said that we were over Johnson Ranch, right? We were over that first point located right here at around 4,500. And let's say that you did climb up to 4,500 and you were leveling off. So back over to our right out here, right? So your call would be, you would queue up on 122.85 and say, Southeast Practice Area, Sioux 123 is over Johnson Ranch, 4,500, heading southeastbound, southeast, right? Please keep in mind, right, any uncontrolled airspace, or like non-towered airspace, I should say, should open and close with where you're at, wherever you're at in the area, right? Since we're in the southeast practice area, we're going to open the transmission by saying southeast and closing the transmission with southeast, right? So we say southeast again, to open it, and then southeast again to close it. We only say it once in the beginning of the transmission when it's a controlled airfield or with a tower or a ground or something like that, right? We're just getting their attention first, but we are just saying our reporting point to let other aircraft know where we are at, right? So you gotta say who you're talking to, which is the southeast practice area, who you are, Sioux 123, where you are, you're over Johnson Ranch at 4,500, and where are you heading? We're heading southeastbound. Then you close the transmission, right? Cool, so that's one example there. Let's say now you're over a different point and you're about to start a maneuver, right? Let's say you're over this point called Blackwater, right? It's just a little bit to the southwest part of where Johnson Ranch was when we just first departed Gateway and all that, right? So let's say we're over Blackwater and we're about to do steep turns, right? Assuming we did all of our pre-maneuver, our airspeed and altitude we're getting at, and we have a reference point out in front of us, and we're heading westbound. I don't know why that line drew there. Let's say we're heading westbound, right? We have a reference point out there for our steep turns. So, assuming we're still at our 4,500 feet, and our call sign is still Sioux 123, how can we build this transmission when saying it on the southeast practice area? Feel free to pause this video at any time to practice yourself saying a radio call before I say the answer. So that transmission would sound like this. Southeast practice area, Sioux 123 is over Blackwater, 4,500 feet, practicing steep turns, southeast. You could add if you're heading westbound, right? The only reason why you don't necessarily need to say you're westbound is because you're going to be doing tiny little steep turns as you're heading eastbound. It's always a good general idea to let them know that you are westbound as well, right? It just depends how busy the frequency is, and usually it does get very busy. As long as you're making a reporting point to let other aircraft know around you that you are about to do steep turns at 4,500 feet over Blackwater, so if anyone else is out here, they know what you are doing over Blackwater, so they don't really get in your way and you don't get in their way, right? So that's why we make these practice area calls out here. Let's say you get in a situation that you're not over a point at all, right? Let's say you're out here doing any maneuver that you want to use as your example. Let's just say steep turns again or something like that, right? And you need to make your reporting call, right? There's a few things you can do here with this radio call. So my tip and trick is when I'm flying along and I have my aircraft symbol, I have what's called distance rings on. So what I do is I go to settings. If this is not turned on, it's a great tool. So you go to settings, scroll down, and it's going to be under ownership distance rings right there under the map overlays. So there it is turned off, but I want to turn distance rings on. And now when you scroll in and out of the map, you will have these distance rings around yourself stating you're 2 nautical miles away. You usually have another one. These are terrible circles. I'm sorry about that, but just an example, right? You'll have another one that's saying 4 nautical miles away, and the further and further you zoom out, the bigger the rings are, right? As an example here, I have my distance rings on. This is perfect. I didn't know I had them on, or I could see myself. But you notice, like, as I get closer, right, it says 2 nautical miles, 4 nautical miles out, and then as I zoom further out, now they're bigger, right? So we got a 5 nautical mile ring, 10 nautical mile ring, and a 25 nautical mile ring, right? So these can come into play and come in handy when you need to make a reporting call. So let me just clean up my area here. So, like I said, we're over here, right? And let's say we have a distance ring that is right over the reporting point monastery, right? And let's say this distance ring is 4 nautical miles wide or long, or whatever you want to say it. So you could say that you are, for your radio call, 4 miles south of monastery, right? So, like I said, we're still in the blue, right? So you can go ahead and pause the video if you want to try to guess what this radio call will sound like. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so this radio call would sound like this. Southeast practice area, Sioux 123 is 4 miles south of monastery at, again, the 4,500 feet, practicing steep turns, right? And then again, if you really wanted to, you could say whatever direction you decided that you're going to do your steep turns at, right? If you kind of see the pattern that's happening right now, right? So southeast practice area, Sioux 123 is 4 miles south of monastery, 4,500 feet, doing steep turns, southeast, right? So always remember to open and close a transmission when you're doing it, and then let go of your Q button, obviously. So that was just another example there. All right, as you get more comfortable with your radio calls, and usually we'll find ourselves out into this purple area. Rarely we'll find ourselves out in this area in the teal or light blue, whatever you want to call it. Usually we'll be out here if we are on a cross country heading westbound. But again, I just want to change colors on you to just to explain like how the radio call will change, right? So let's say we are over Maricopa town, right? Notice that it is now a pink color, right? We're in a different practice area zone. So, like I said, the blue is southeast. Purple is now southwest. And now, as you can tell, here it is. Southwest frequency is 122.85. Luckily enough, these two practice areas frequencies are the same. Notice that you have the Stanfield VOR frequency for 122.7 when they're doing the Stanfield stack for instrument. You definitely want to stay out of that way. I have my drawing in the way, but you see on these notes, right, it says surface to stay away from this from 3,800 to the surface because there's people coming into land over the VOR there. Quick side note there. Anyway, so back to where I was. Maricopa town, 4,500 feet, doing steep turns again as an example, right? Give you a few seconds to think of that transmission, right? And remember, we are now in the southwest practice area instead of the southeast. All right, so what this radio call would sound like is this. Southwest practice area, Sioux 123 is over Maricopa town, 4,500 feet, practicing steep turns, southwest, right? That's the only thing that really changes with the transmission call is that you're in now the southwest practice area because you're now in the different color of the practice area, essentially. So that is what changes only in that transmission, right? So everything else stays the same because you just need to let them know where you're at, where you're heading. It just depends what kind of maneuver you're doing. where you're heading, what altitude, and let them know what maneuver you're going to do, or if you're just traveling along, right? So it's very important to keep reporting points just keep up with your reporting point. Now, this one is rare. The light blue we don't usually go out and see often, right? So as you can see right here, let me turn off my legend map. There we go. The light blue, as you can already see, is called the Rainbow Valley practice area, right? I've been out here personally maybe like once or twice. Usually it's on cross countries or something like that, and there's just it's a lot more emptier of a practice area than it is than with southeast practice area or the southwest practice area. So when making your radio calls, again, what is the only thing that changes is where you're at in that said area, right? Instead of saying southwest or southeast practice area, you are just changing the opening and the closing Rainbow Valley practice area, right? And then closing it with closing your transmission with whatever you are telling them, right? So let's do one more final example, right? And let's say we're over railroad tracks here, right? I'll go ahead and give you a few seconds. And we're doing this still these examples, steep turns at 4,500 feet. Give you a few seconds to better study yourself. So this radio call would sound like this. Rainbow Valley practice area. Sioux 123 is over railroad tracks, 4,500 feet, practicing steep turns. Rainbow Valley, right? So notice real quick that I just caught myself on is that I'm saying Rainbow Valley practice area first, but then at the very end, I'm just closing it with just Rainbow Valley, right? So I'm just opening it up to who I am talking to in that said area, right? So the Rainbow Valley practice area is who I'm talking to, and then you can just close it saying, I'm done talking with saying just Rainbow Valley, right? So feel free to replay this video and to practice yourself of certain reporting points, and even just look around on the map to give yourselves other situations where you might be in the practice area. You could just say honestly to yourself, like, okay, let's say I'm over South Crop Circles at 3,500 and I'm only doing, I don't know, a power on stall, excuse me. And just giving yourselves those examples to ensure that you are staying up on your radios and that they are clean and concise. I hope this video helped you out with understanding practice area radio calls. And I hope to see you in the sky soon.